Our water bill was $1,200 a month for a family of three. The meter in the basement was spinning faster than a slot machine, but the building super said nothing was wrong. I put up with it for 6 months, letting the bill pile up to over $7,000. Finally, I gritted my teeth and had the city shut off our water for 3 days. I hired my own plumber to check the pipes. That afternoon, the owner of the restaurant downstairs kicked my apartment door with a furious roar. "What the hell are you doing? I've got no water in my kitchen." I froze for 3 seconds. Then everything clicked. For the last 6 months, had I been paying to keep his restaurant in business? Bang! The sound ripped through our apartment. The steel security door, brand new, shuddered in its frame from a massive kick from the hallway. The metal groaned in protest. My wife, Sarah, screamed, and the apple she was holding dropped and rolled across the floor. My 3-year-old daughter burst into tears, clinging to her mom's leg. I put down the bill I was staring at. The past due notice from the water company, with $7,200 printed in bold red letters, felt like a judgment, a final verdict on my incompetence. Bang! The second kick was harder, more brazen. The lock was visibly bent, looking like it would shatter on the next impact. "Miller, you son of a bitch, open this door." A greasy, vulgar voice bellowed from the hall. It was Al Russo, the owner of the Italian joint downstairs. I took a deep breath, a mixture of humiliation and white-hot anger churning like lava in my chest. I walked to the door and looked through the people. A face distorted with rage and glistening with sweat looked like it had just been pulled out of a deep fryer. I opened the door. A wave of stale cooking oil and cheap cigar smoke hit me, forcing me back a step. Al Russo stood there like a wall of angry flesh, jabbing a finger at my face, spittle flying from his lips. "What the hell is your problem? Why'd you shut off the water? My kitchen's dead in the water. You hear me? We're slammed. You gonna pay for my lost business?" His voice echoed in the narrow hallway, making my ears ring. I looked at him, saying nothing. The nerve that had been stretched taut for 6 long months suddenly, strangely, went slack. It all made sense now. The wildly spinning water meter, the $1,000 monthly bills, the building's super, Gary, and his smug, everything's normal attitude. This was it. This was the source of the problem. I turn off my water, and his restaurant goes dry. The logic was so simple and so completely insane. I had been paying the water bill for his bustling restaurant. For half a year, I was the sucker, the quiet guy upstairs, silently bankrolling the vampire downstairs. "You gonna answer me? What, you deaf now?" Al Russo shouted, seeing my silence as weakness. He took a step forward, his finger nearly poking my chest. I met his gaze, my voice surprisingly calm. "Mr. Russo, I had the water to my unit turned off to inspect my own pipes. What does that have to do with your restaurant?" Al froze for a second, a flicker of panic in his eyes that he quickly papered over with more rage. "Bullshit. Your water's off, and now mine is too. It has to be the main valve. You messed with the building's main valve." He was trying to muddy the waters to create chaos. Just then, our building super, Gary, came panting up the stairs. He glanced at the tense standoff and plastered on a fake, oily smile. "Hey now, Al, Mr. Miller. Let's all just calm down. We're neighbors here." Al immediately found his ally. "Gary, you tell him. He shut off his water, and it killed the water in my restaurant. I've got a kitchen full of dirty pots and a dining room full of customers. He's trying to sabotage my business." Gary wiped sweat from his brow and turned to me, his tone already biased. "Come on, Ethan. Look at this mess. Maybe you made a mistake? It's probably just the main valve. Why don't you turn the water back on so I can get back to work, and then we'll figure it out, okay?" Harmony, right? That's what being neighbors is all about. What a joke. Harmony. My heart grew colder by the second. I ignored Gary. I walked back into my apartment and pulled a set of rolled-up blueprints from a drawer, the plumbing schematics from when we renovated. I spread the 2 sheets on the floor in front of them, pointing to the clearly marked lines. "This is the plumbing diagram for my apartment. This is the diagram for the whole building. My unit has its own meter and its own independent line. The building's main valve is in a locked closet in the basement, which I don't have a key for. Now, Mr. Russo, please explain to me, why would shutting off my independent water line affect your business?" My voice was quiet, but every word hammered into their guilty faces. Al Russo's face turned into a blotchy mess of red and white. He stared at the blueprints, his lips trembling, unable to form a single word. Gary just wrung his hands, avoiding my eyes. The hallway was dead silent. Suddenly, Al slapped his thigh and launched into a new performance. I got it. It's a leak. Yeah, that's it. Your pipes are leaking into my restaurant. He pointed at my perfectly dry floor as if he could see a puddle. The water shorted out my pump. That's why the water's off. You have to pay. You have to pay for the damages. The leap in logic was so absurd, I almost laughed. Anger, when pushed to its absolute limit, just becomes ridiculous. Sarah, holding our daughter, was shaking with rage. She stepped forward to argue with him. That's a lie. Our floors are bone dry. I put my arm out to stop her. I looked at the pathetic, blustering man in front of me, at the useless, complicit super, and my mind went completely cold. Trying to reason with people like this was the most pointless exercise in the world. From downstairs, Al's wife joined the fight, her shrill voice piercing through the floorboards. That bastard upstairs. He's trying to ruin us. He's a heartless son of a bitch. The insults were vile, unending. I said nothing. I just took a silent step back, raised my phone, pointed it at Al and Gary's faces, and hit the record button. On the screen, their ugly expressions were perfectly clear. Then, I looked up, forcing a submissive smile onto my face. Okay, Gary's right. Being good neighbors is what's important. I'll call the city and have them turn the water back on. Al and Gary both stared, stunned that I had folded so quickly. A triumphant sneer spread across Al's face. Gary let out a sigh of relief. See? Ethan's a reasonable guy. I looked at them, the smile never reaching my eyes. Turn the water back on? Of course. But from this moment on, I was the one in control of the game. Right there in front of them, I called the city water department and requested to have my service restored. The operator confirmed my details and said it would be back on within the hour. Al Russo's smug grin was so wide it almost split his face. He clapped me hard on the shoulder, a humiliating, patronizing gesture. That's more like it, pal. See? No need to make a big deal out of nothing. We're all friends here. He was acting like the victor, as if he hadn't just been kicking my door down. Gary the super quickly tried to smooth things over. All right, all's well that ends well. Ethan, once the water's back, we'll all take a look and see where that leak of yours is coming from. I nodded, my face a placid mask. Okay, thanks, Gary. But if we're going to check, we should be thorough. I looked at Al, my voice earnest. Mr. Russo, since you said my apartment is leaking into your restaurant, you'll need to be here when the water comes back. We can find exactly where the water is coming down. Al's eyes darted for a moment before he puffed out his chest. You bet I'll be here. I want to see just how rotten your pipes are. He thought I actually believed his nonsense. He thought I was still the same pushover he could steamroll anytime he wanted. An hour later, the water was back. I turned on the kitchen faucet, and a clear stream gushed out. At almost the exact same second, I heard a yelling downstairs. We got water. Back to work, everyone. I turned off the tap and waited. Sure enough, a few minutes later, Gary showed up at my door again, this time with Al and a plumber in a greasy work uniform. I recognized the plumber. I'd seen him drinking with Al at the bar down the street just last week. Probably Al's cousin. They were going to see this little play through to the end. The plumber put on a big show, walking through my kitchen and bathroom, tapping on walls and pipes. Finally, he stopped at a corner, shone a flashlight on the wall, and declared with absolute certainty, here it is. The pipe inside the wall is old. It's got a slow leak. The water's seeping down from right here. Al jumped on his cue, his face a mask of sorrowful accusation. See, I told you it was a leak. Ethan, listen to me. Because of your leak, my circuit shorted out and I had to close for half the day. You owe me for that. He stuck up a finger and waved it in my face. I'm not asking for much. $10,000. For the lost business and the cost to repair my water-damaged walls. 10 grand. His greed was so naked it made my stomach turn. I let out a cold laugh. Mr. Russo, you say it's leaking. Where's the water? I pointed at the corner his plumber had so confidently identified. This spot is bone dry. Now, look at my floors. Do you see a single drop of water? And your walls downstairs, which part is damaged? Do you have pictures? My rapid-fire questions left him speechless. He stammered for a moment, unable to come up with an answer. Seeing his lie was about to unravel, Al resorted to his signature move, throwing a tantrum. He dramatically plopped down on my floor and started slapping his thighs, wailing, "Oh, the injustice. This is what I get for trying to run a business in this neighborhood. He's trying to bully me." He cried. "His pipes are leaking, and he won't admit it. He's turning it all around on me. I can't take it anymore." His howling was worse than a pig being slaughtered. Gary, right on schedule, switched to his role as the stern authority figure. "Ethan, how can you be like this? Mr. Russo is a small business owner. It's not easy for him. The leak is a fact, and you need to pay for the damages. You can't be so unreasonable." They were a well-rehearsed team. Sarah was so angry her lips were trembling. She grabbed her phone to call the police. You're trying to extort us. I'm calling 911. When Al heard the word police, he wasn't scared at all. He scrambled up from the floor, suddenly emboldened. "Go ahead. Call them. The cops will just tell us it's a civil matter. A neighbor dispute. They'll tell us to solve it ourselves. I'm telling you, that $10,000, you're going to pay it one way or another." He was absolutely certain he had me cornered. I watched this pathetic little drama play out, glanced at the $7,200 bill on my table, and felt the last flicker of emotion die inside me. I was completely numb. Anger and disappointment were now luxuries I couldn't afford. I gently pulled Sarah back, shaking my head. Then, I turned to Al, my face a mask of weary resignation. "Okay, I'll pay, but $10,000 is a lot of money. I don't have it right now. You'll have to wait until I get paid. Next month." My surrender brought victorious smiles to their faces. In their eyes, I was completely broken. I'll wave his hand magnanimously. "Fine, I'll give you a month. The 15th of next month. If you're short one penny, I'll be at your door every single day." With that, he and his cousin the plumber swaggered out, humming happily. Gary gave me a few phony words of comfort. "Attaboy, sometimes you gotta bend a little," before quickly making his own exit. The door closed. The world was finally quiet. I looked at the scene at the sheer, ridiculous injustice of it all. 1 month. That was more than enough time. Enough time for me to prepare a very special surprise for them. A storm was quietly gathering inside me. The lock clicked shut, sealing out the world. Sarah's tears, held back for so long, finally streamed down her face. Her voice was choked with sobs. "Ethan, what are we going to do? Are we really going to pay him that $10,000? We still haven't solved the $7,000 water bill. They're just bullies. They're leeches." She slammed her fist on the sofa, her knuckles turning white. I walked over, took her hand, and pulled her into my arms. I didn't say anything. I just took out my phone and played the video I had just recorded. On the screen, Al's arrogant, sneering face, Gary's biased and pathetic attempt to mediate, and the plumber's bogus performance were all perfectly captured. Then, I played the audio file. Al's roar as he kicked the door, his pack of lies, and his threatening demand for $10,000 were all recorded, crystal clear. Sarah stopped crying as she watched. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with confusion. When did you record all that?" I turned off the phone, my expression chillingly calm. While they were busy treating us like idiots, I looked my wife in the eye and said, enunciating every word, "Sarah, trying to reason with people like that is useless. They only understand one thing. Whoever's loudest, whoever's the bigger asshole, is the one who's right. So we have to play by their rules." Sarah looked at me, seeing a coldness and determination in my eyes she had never seen before. She didn't ask any more questions. She just gave a firm nod. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my computer, diving into a rabbit hole of research. Plumbing engineering, fluid dynamics, valve types, remote control systems. A world of foreign terms became lines of code, actionable plans. My fingers flew across the keyboard, the cold light of the monitor illuminating my face. The next day, I took a personal day off work. I drove all over Queens, hitting up Home Depot, specialty plumbing supply shops, and electronic stores. I came home with a set of specialized valves, a remote-controlled solenoid valve, some custom pipe fittings, and a small, high-pressure pump. It cost me nearly half a month's salary, but it was worth it. Late that night, I made sure Russo's restaurant downstairs was closed, all its lights dark. I grabbed my toolbox and slipped down to the basement utility closet. The lock on the closet was ancient and rusted through, completely useless. I easily opened the door, found the main water valve for my unit, and gently turned it off. Then I went back upstairs and got to work. I cut into the main pipe leading from my water meter down toward the floor. The piercing shriek of the metal cutting blade was sharp and loud in the dead of night. I carefully peeled back the pipe's insulation. And there it was. The truth. A cleverly concealed T-junction was soldered onto the pipe. A brand new PX tube branched off from it, bypassing my meter completely and running straight down into the ceiling of the floor below. The evidence was irrefutable. A cold smile spread across my face. I took out my phone and, from every possible angle, photographed the criminal connection. The flash illuminated the dirty secret, freezing it in time. I didn't remove the illegal pipe. That would end the game too soon. Instead, I took out the components I bought that day. First, on the main pipe leading into my apartment, I installed a one-way check valve. This would ensure that no matter what I did, contaminants could never flow back into my family's water supply. Next, on the illicit pipe leading downstairs, I installed a solenoid valve. The valve was wired to a small controller that I could operate from an app on my phone, allowing me to open or close it from anywhere at any time. Finally, just above the T-junction, I drilled a small secondary branch and fitted it with a threaded, sealed injection port. This port would be the stage for my counterattack. I sealed every connection perfectly, then wrapped the entire section with new insulation. From the outside, the pipe looked exactly as it had before. I went back down to the basement, turned the main valve back on, and checked my work. No leaks. It was done. I packed up my tools and cleaned up every trace of my work. I stood at my window, looking down at the darkened sign of the restaurant below, and a cold, sharp smile touched my lips. Al Russo, you like using my water, don't you? Well, I'm about to give you all the water you can handle. The opening act of my revenge was about to begin. 4. The next day, I went to work as usual. Sarah took our daughter to preschool. Everything was normal, calm. Downstairs, Russo's Ristorante, open for business as always. I could faintly hear the clatter of pans and the murmur of customers. I was probably feeling pretty good about himself, convinced he'd won. He was just waiting for the 15th of next month to come and collect his $10,000 compensation. I sat at my desk, staring at my computer, but my mind was elsewhere. I opened the simple control app on my phone. It had a single, large on-off switch on the screen. I waited until 11:30 a.m. The start of the lunch rush, the busiest time of the day for a restaurant. The kitchen would be a chaotic whirl of activity, the dining room filling up with hungry customers. The time was now. I didn't hit the off switch. Just cutting his water would be letting him off too easy. I got up and walked to my office break room. I plugged a USB stick into my computer and ran a small program I'd written. It would automatically simulate mouse movements and keystrokes, making it look like I was working at my desk. Then, I left the office. Back in my apartment, I dragged a massive plastic drum out of the storage closet. Inside was what I had bought at a restaurant supply wholesaler yesterday. 50 gallons of the cheapest, darkest soy sauce they sold. It was nearly black and reeked of salt. I connected one end of the high-pressure pump to a tube running into the drum of soy sauce. I unscrewed the cap on the injection port I'd installed last night and securely fastened the other end of the pump. Everything was ready. I took out my phone and opened the app again. This time, I pressed the green on button. The solenoid valve opened silently. I took a deep breath and switched on the pump. Whir! The quiet hum of the motor filled the room. The dark, brackish soy sauce was forced under high pressure into the illegal pipe leading to the restaurant downstairs. From there, it would flow directly to every faucet in Al Russo's kitchen. I can already picture the scene. The restaurant kitchen. A line cook is making a batch of chicken soup. He turns on the faucet, expecting to fill a large stock pot with clean water. Instead, a thick, dark brown liquid sputters out. "What the hell is this?" the cook would yell, thinking it was just rust in the pipes that needed to be flushed out. But the black water would just keep coming, an endless, foul stream. Across the kitchen, a dishwasher is loading a rack. The faucet unleashes a torrent of soy sauce, splashing all over her. The entire industrial sink instantly turns into a giant pool of black liquid. Out in the dining room, a customer goes to the restroom to wash his hands. He lathers up with soap, turns on the faucet, and a stream of what looks like ink pours over his hands. He sniffs them, a strong, salty, fermented smell. Waiter! Hey, waiter! What is wrong with your water? The customer's angry shout would be the spark that ignites the powder keg. Why is my soup black? Did you cook this with motor oil? It tastes disgusting. Shouts and accusations would erupt from every table. The dining room would descend into chaos as customers jump up, yelling about the restaurant's hygiene, demanding refunds, threatening to call the health department. I would be completely bewildered. He'd storm into the kitchen and see every faucet spewing black sludge. He'd fly into a rage. His first suspect would, of course, be me. Like an angry bull, he would charge upstairs and start pounding on my door again. I would calmly open the door, my face showing a convincing, sleepy grogginess. Mr. Russo? What is it now? Is there a fire? He would point a trembling finger at me, too furious to speak. You did this. I'd hold up my hands in a gesture of pure innocence. Did what? I was taking a nap. I'd step aside, giving him a clear view of my kitchen. See for yourself. Right in front of him, I'd turn on my own faucet. A stream of perfectly clear, clean water would pour out. I would even fill a glass and take a long drink. The water in the glass, of course, would be from a bottle of Fiji I had opened earlier. Al Russo would be completely dumbfounded. He'd look at the clean water in my apartment, think of the bizarre soy sauce disaster in his restaurant, and his brain would short-circuit. He'd know it was me, but he'd have absolutely no proof. That feeling of impotent rage must be agonizing. I looked forward to seeing his face, contorted and purple with frustration. This was only the beginning. Al Russo eventually left, his tail between his legs. He couldn't find a shred of evidence, and could only chalk up the soy sauce water incident to some bizarre municipal pipe contamination. He paid out of his own pocket to have his restaurant's entire plumbing system flushed and had to refund every single customer from that day. He lost a lot of money. The next day, his restaurant reluctantly reopened. The place was half empty. Word of yesterday's chaos had clearly gotten out. I watched from my window, unconcerned. A good show needs pacing. I waited until evening. The dinner rush, the most profitable and water-intensive part of his day. This time, my props were 2 large jugs of industrial-grade concentrated cleaning vinegar. I got them from a friend who works at a chemical supply company. The acidity was off the charts, and the smell was overpowering. I repeated the previous day's procedure. I activated the work simulation program on my office computer, drove home, connected the pump, and opened the solenoid valve. This time, the colorless, transparent vinegar flowed silently through the pipes and into the restaurant below. If yesterday's soy sauce was a visual assault, today's vinegar was an olfactory apocalypse. In the kitchen, a chef was simmering a large pot of stock. As the vinegar-laced water was added, an indescribably pungent, acidic stench instantly vaporized and filled the room. The entire kitchen smelled like a giant vat of acid had been spilled, only 100 times more intense. Every dish being cooked, from the veal marsala to the sausage and peppers, was instantly transformed into a culinary nightmare. At the dishwashing station, the hot water heater vaporized the acid, making it even more potent. The dishwasher, a middle-aged woman, was hit with a wall of fumes that made her eyes stream and sent her into a violent coughing fit. The smell quickly spread from the kitchen to the dining room. Patrons first noticed a strange, sharp odor. Soon, it grew stronger, more acrid, until it was genuinely painful to breathe. What is that smell? It's burning my nose. Cough, cough. I can't even open my eyes. Waiter, did your kitchen fall into a vat of chemicals? The diners, unable to stand the fumes, began clutching their noses and running for the door, tears streaming down their faces. A few quick-thinking people pulled out their phones and started recording. Look at this. Russo's Ristorante. There's something seriously wrong with their sanitation. The whole place smells like a chemical spill. Don't eat here. They're definitely using some shady stuff in their food. As luck would have it, a local food blogger was dining there. He immediately started a live stream on TikTok, giving it a sensational title. Exclusive. Chemical leak at Russo's Ristorante? Evacuating now. The videos and live streams spread like wildfire through local Facebook groups and on Instagram. Russo's reputation was utterly destroyed. Within an hour, His Yelp and Google review pages were flooded with one-star ratings. Terrible atmosphere, overpowering chemical smell. Suspect, they use hazardous cleaning agents near the food. Got sick immediately after leaving. I've already filed a complaint with the Department of Health. The owner is rude. The food tastes bizarre. Avoid this place at all costs. Al Russo stood in his empty, foul-smelling dining room, watching the flood of negative reviews and refund requests on his phone. He looked like he was about to have a heart attack. He charged upstairs again and began hammering on my door. This time, I didn't open it. I simply activated the two-way talk feature on my Ring doorbell. "Can I help you, Mr. Russo?" My voice, calm and clear, projected from the small speaker. "Miller, what the hell did you do to my restaurant?" He screamed, his voice cracking with rage. "I'm afraid I don't know what you're talking about," I replied coolly. "My water is running just fine. No problems here." There was nothing he could do. He called Gary the super, screaming into the phone that I was sabotaging him. Gary, tired of the drama, just gave him the brush off, saying there was nothing he could do about pipe contamination and suggested I'll call the police. Call the police? Would he dare? The evidence of his illegal water line was still a secret I held. I ended the doorbell call, listening to AL's muffled, impotent curses in the hallway. I felt a deep, satisfying sense of calm. Watching him slowly crumble was more entertaining than any movie. My plan was working perfectly. Now it was time for the third course. The past 2 days of attacks had turned Al Russo into a cornered animal. He was completely unhinged, convinced I was behind it all, but with no way to prove it. Having failed at reason and tantrums, he finally reverted to his most basic instinct, violence. The third night, just after Sarah and I had finished dinner, my Ring doorbell sent a motion alert to my phone. The camera showed Al at my door, this time with 2 thuggish-looking young men flanking him. One had a cigarette dangling from his lips. The other was nervously fidgeting with something in his pocket. They stared at my door with undisguised menace. "Miller, get your ass out here. I'll video with. I know it was you. If you don't give me an explanation tonight, I'm going to make sure you and your family never have a peaceful day again." One of his goons punctuated the threat with a hard kick to the door. "You hear that, asshole? Open up before we open it for you." Sarah's face went pale. She grabbed my arm, her knuckles white. I patted her hand reassuringly. I had anticipated this. I didn't open the door. Instead, I activated the doorbell's built-in siren. W-O-W-O. An ear-splitting alarm blared through the hallway. At the same time, I spoke into my phone, my voice amplified by the doorbell speaker, cold and robotic. "To the individuals at my door, your actions are being recorded in high definition. This video is being uploaded to a cloud server in real time. This siren has automatically notified the local police precinct. If you do not leave immediately, you will be arrested for trespassing and attempted breaking and entering." My words cut through the noise. Al and his 2 thugs froze. They clearly hadn't expected a smart doorbell. One of the thugs tried to act tough, muttering a curse. The other, slightly smarter, tugged on his arm. "Hey man, let's go. I think that thing really calls the cops." Al's face was a mask of pure hatred. He glared at the camera lens as if he could kill me with his eyes. But in the end, he backed down, turning to leave with his hired muscle. As he walked away, he threw one last threat over his shoulder. "You just wait, Miller." I watched their retreating figures on my phone screen, a cold smile on my face. Wait? Oh, I was waiting to finish this. "You want to play rough, Al?" "Fine. Let's play rough." On the 4th day, I didn't go to the wholesale market. I went back to my friend at the chemical supply company and acquired a gallon of highly concentrated industrial foaming agent. It was colorless and odorless, but when mixed with hot water or agitated, it produced a massive, stable volume of dense foam that was incredibly difficult to dissipate. This time, I didn't act during business hours. I waited until 4 a.m. when the city was asleep. I injected the foaming agent into the pipe, a slow and steady stream. It was completely silent, completely undetectable. The next morning, the staff at Russo's Ristorante arrived to begin their prep work. A cook started on the day's soup base. He filled a huge stock pot with water, put on the stove to boil, and added bones and vegetables. Then, something bizarre happened. The second the water hit a rolling boil, it began to foam violently. White, thick foam erupted from the pot, growing higher and higher like a monstrous science experiment, spilling over the sides, covering the stove, and pouring onto the floor. The cook, terrified, quickly shut off the heat, but the foam kept expanding. Meanwhile, the dishwasher turned on her industrial machine. The combination of high-temperature water and the foaming agent was explosive. Whoosh! A massive wave of foam blasted out from the seams of the machine. Within minutes, the entire kitchen was transformed into a surreal foam party. White foam covered the floor, burying table legs and rising past their knees. The staff screamed, slipping and sliding through the bizarre, bubbly landscape, completely baffled. Al, awakened by the commotion, stormed into the kitchen. What the hell is all this screaming about? Before he could finish his sentence, his feet went out from under him, and he landed with a loud splat right in the middle of the foam. He struggled to get up, but the slick bubbles offered no purchase. He flailed around helplessly, looking like a bear that had fallen into a vat of whipped cream. The scene was so absurdly perfect, so visually stunning. Through a tiny, waterproof security camera I had mounted outside, aimed at his kitchen window, I watched the whole ridiculous scene unfold on my phone. I had to stifle a laugh. How do you like your custom-made foam party, Al? 7 The restaurant was completely crippled. The kitchen was buried in foam, a massive and hazardous cleanup job. Worse, no one knew what the foam was made of or if it was toxic. The terrified staff quit on the spot, demanding their final paychecks. Several customers who had booked parties for that day called to cancel, demanding their deposits back. Al Russo was drowning in problems. He was out thousands in refunded deposits and had to pay his entire staff. He finally broke. Like a mad dog, he sprinted to the property management office in the lobby. I was able to listen to a live broadcast of the ensuing drama thanks to a small voice-activated recorder a friend had discreetly placed outside the office window earlier that week. "Gary, get your ass out here." Al kicked open the super's office door, his voice raw with desperation and fury. "My restaurant. It's finished. It's all your fault. You and your useless management. I told you the guy upstairs was messing with me, and you did nothing. What am I supposed to do now? You're going to pay for my losses." Gary's voice, when he replied, was frayed and annoyed. After days of being harassed by Al, he had reached his limit. "What are you yelling about, Al? How is your restaurant failing my problem? You say Mr. Miller is doing something, but do you have any proof? Without proof, it's just slander. We're only responsible for common areas. What happens inside your restaurant is your business." Gary was frantically trying to distance himself from Al. The man he'd been happy to conspire with was now a liability. Al was incensed. "Bullshit. Who was the one who took my cash to look the other way when I tapped into that water line? You, Gary. You. Now that there's trouble, you want to wash your hands of it? Not a chance." The office fell silent for a beat. Then Gary's voice shot back, high-pitched and defensive. You're lying. Al, I'm warning you. Don't you dare accuse me of that. What cash? I never took any cash from you. You're the one who illegally modified the building's plumbing. You got caught, and now you're trying to blame me? I can report you to the building's ownership right now and have you fined for illegal construction. To save his own skin, Gary threw Al under the bus without a second thought. He even rustled through a drawer and slammed a piece of paper on his desk, a copy of the plumbing schematic I had shown them. Look for yourself. It's right here in black and white. The evidence is clear. You were the one stealing water. That was the last straw for Al. You son of a bitch, Gary. So that's how it is. I'm going to kill you. The recording picked up the sound of a desk being overturned, paper scattering, and the two men cursing as they started throwing punches. You're touching me? You're fired. I'll kill you, you useless, bribe-taking bastard. Other tenants and building staff, drawn by the commotion, gathered outside the office. Someone pulled out a phone and started recording the dog bites dog brawl. The video was immediately posted to the building's resident Facebook group, and it exploded. OMG, the owner of Russo's is fighting with the super. I heard the restaurant owner was stealing water from the guy in 3B. So that's why Ethan Miller's water bill was so high. His water was being stolen. The sentiment in the group turned instantly. The same neighbors who had ignored my plight were now champions of justice, flooding the comments with angry posts denouncing both Al Russo and the corrupt management. I sat in my apartment, calmly sipping my coffee and watching the drama unfold on my phone. The alliance of villains, faced with real consequences, was proving to be incredibly fragile. The trap they had set for me had become the cage that now held them both. I was simply watching the fire from across the river, waiting to collect the spoils. And it was a spectacular show. The brawl in the super's office was just the appetizer. It was time to serve the main course. I spent the entire afternoon compiling and organizing the evidence I had gathered over the past 6 months. The video of Al kicking my door. The video of him and his cousin, the plumber, framing me for a leak. The audio recording of his $10,000 extortion attempt. The Ring camera footage of him showing up with thugs to threaten my family. And of course, the photos and videos of his kitchen filled with soy sauce, reeking of acid, and buried in foam. The final piece was a copy of my water bill, showing the shocking total of $7,200. All the evidence, woven together, created an airtight case. I carefully crafted it all into a long, detailed post, complete with photos and embedded videos. I wrote it from the perspective of a quiet, ordinary guy who had been bullied, ignored, and finally pushed to the brink, forced to fight back to protect his family. I kept the tone calm and factual, letting the evidence speak for itself. Every fact was a hammer blow, designed to shatter any doubt in the reader's mind. After much deliberation, I chose a title designed to go viral. My downstairs neighbor stole my water for 6 months, then demanded I pay him $10,000. This is my story. Using an anonymous account, I posted the story simultaneously to the Queens subreddit, a popular local neighborhood Facebook group, and sent it directly to several influential NYC food bloggers. With that, I closed my laptop and took a long, deep breath. I had done everything I could. The rest was up to the internet. I had lit the match. I just didn't realize how massive the explosion would be. Less than an hour after I posted it, the story was pinned to the top of the subreddit and was going viral on Facebook. The number of views, upvotes, and comments began to skyrocket. What a scumbag. Stealing water and then acting like the victim. The building management is just as bad. They were clearly in on it. I feel so bad for the guy upstairs. Can't imagine how stressful that must have been. Russo's Ristorante. I know that place. It's right around the corner from me. I always thought that place looked grimy. Guys, the address is out there. Let's all go leave a review on Yelp. The internet mob was activated. The power of online sleuths was immense. Within hours, Al Russo's full name, the restaurant's address, and even his personal cell phone number were circulating online. Customers who had been there during the soy sauce and vinegar incidents came forward to corroborate the story, adding their own bizarre experiences. Russo's Ristorante became an overnight local sensation, a viral train wreck. The story blew up. Local news outlets and citywide blogs started reporting on it. The NYC Department of Health and the fire department were inundated with calls and online complaints. Forced to act by the overwhelming public pressure, they issued a public statement announcing an immediate joint investigation. A massive net, woven from threads of public outrage and digital justice, was slowly closing. And Al Russo was the fly trapped at its center. He was about to pay the ultimate price for his greed and stupidity. He was about to learn the true meaning of the phrase, "You reap what you sow." The fist of public opinion, when it lands, hits harder than anything else. The next morning, official vehicles from the Department of Health and the FDNY were parked outside Russo's Ristorante. Inspectors cordoned off the entrance and began a top-to-bottom inspection. The findings were damning. The kitchen's hygiene conditions were grossly non-compliant. Food was stored improperly, with some ingredients long past their expiration date. Fire exits were blocked, fire extinguishers were missing, and the illegal, unpermitted electrical wiring was a massive fire hazard. And, of course, the illegal water line was the nail in the coffin. The verdict came down that afternoon. The restaurant was ordered to close indefinitely and was hit with a fine so large it would wipe out every dollar he had ever made from the business. The property management company also moved quickly to control the damage. To appease the building's furious residents, they posted a public apology in the lobby, announced the immediate termination of Gary Jenkins, and promised to overhaul their management practices. As a gesture of goodwill to me, they also waived my building fees for the next year. Al Russo's world collapsed in less than 48 hours. His restaurant was a toxic asset, His suppliers, catching wind of the scandal, showed up demanding payment for outstanding invoices. His landlord, citing damage to the property and bringing the building into disrepute, terminated his lease and sued him for breaking it. He was completely bankrupt. He had not only lost everything, but he was now buried in debt. The once arrogant, bullying restaurant owner was now a reviled and broken man. Finally, on a rainy evening, my doorbell rang. I looked at the camera feed. It was Al and his wife. Al had a few fresh bruises on his face, maybe from creditors, maybe from his wife. His wife looked haggard, her hair a mess. They were holding a cheap-looking fruit basket. I didn't open the door. I watched them stand there for a long time, the rain soaking their hair and clothes. Suddenly, with a choked sob, Al Russo dropped to his knees on the wet doormat. His wife immediately knelt beside him. "Mr. Miller, sir, I'm so sorry. I was wrong. I was so wrong." Al's voice, muffled through the door, was thick with desperation and tears. He began to slap himself across the face. Hard. Smack. Smack. The sound was sharp and pathetic. "I'm not a man. I'm an animal. I was a blind fool to ever mess with you. Please, I'm begging you, give us a break. Give us a chance to live. The stuff online. Please, can you take it down? If this keeps up, my family's going to be ruined. We'll be homeless." His wife was sobbing next to him. "Yes, please, Mr. Miller, we know we were wrong. We'll pay you back. We'll pay for all the water. Just please give us a way out." The arrogance was gone, replaced by a desperate, groveling humility. The contrast was almost comical. I watched their tear-streaked faces on my monitor, my heart completely still. Too little, too late. The world has no sympathy for the weak. And it certainly has no sympathy for the wicked who only pretend to be weak when they're caught. I didn't open the door. For people like them, even an ounce of pity is a betrayal of yourself. I spoke through the doorbell speaker, my voice cold, flat, and devoid of any emotion. "You wanted to take down the posts. Fine." The sound of my voice made them stop crying instantly. They looked up at the camera like it was a lifeline. "I have 3 conditions. First, for the last 6 months, you stole my water. The bill comes to exactly $7,200. You will transfer that amount to me right now. Not 1 penny less. Second, you kicked in my door, you threatened my family, and you caused me and my wife extreme emotional distress. You will pay for the damage, for my lost time from work, and for the materials I had to buy to uncover your scheme. That total is $20,000. Third, and this is the most important part, you will go into the building's resident Facebook group, the one with over 500 members, and you will post a public letter of apology from your own account. In it, you will admit to everything, stealing the water, framing me for a leak, and trying to extort money from me. You will then send me a screenshot of the post." I laid out my terms clearly and precisely. There was a long silence from the other side of the door. Then, Al's wife started crying again, this time with a note of genuine despair. $27,000. We don't have that kind of money. Our restaurant is gone. We're drowning in debt. We can't." She was trying one last time to appeal to my sympathy. It was a wasted effort. My heart had turned to stone the moment they first kicked my door. "You have 2 choices," I said, cutting her off. "You can refuse to pay. In that case, I will see you in court. I will hire the best lawyer I can find, and I will sue you for theft, extortion, and defamation. I promise you, the amount you'll have to pay then will be much, much higher. Or you can let that story stay online forever. Let everyone everywhere know exactly what kind of people you are." My words were like 2 sharp knives, gutting their last hope of squirming out of this. They knew I wasn't bluffing. Finally, Al's voice came again, defeated and empty. "Okay, I'll pay. I'll pay. The apology. I'll write it." I don't know if they had to sell their car or beg from relatives, but before the sun came up, I received a notification from my bank. A transfer of $27,200, marked restitution. A few minutes later, a long, rambling post appeared in the resident Facebook group. It was from Al Russo's account. In it, he confessed to everything, his tone groveling and pathetic. He detailed his crimes even more thoroughly than I had in my original post. The group once again erupted, this time with the spectacle of a bully's public self-immolation. I looked at the money in my account and the screenshot of the apology. I felt no thrill of victory, no satisfying sting of revenge. Just a quiet, profound sense of peace. The world had been set right. I had taken back what was mine. And in doing so, I had defended the most basic right of any decent person, the right to be left alone. 11 the day after the apology was posted, Al Russo and his wife disappeared. I heard their restaurant was sold for pennies on the dollar to cover a fraction of their debts. They moved back to whatever town they came from and were never seen in the neighborhood again. Once I was sure they were gone for good, I contacted the online platforms, provided proof of the resolution, and had the original posts removed. The storm passed. One weekend afternoon, I went down to the basement and opened the utility closet one last time. I carefully disassembled my revenge machine, the solenoid valve, the injection port, the check valve. I replaced the section of pipe with a new, clean piece. When I was done, it looked as if the whole ugly affair had never happened. The new building super was a sharp young guy who was clearly trying to clean up the mess his predecessor had left. Eager to get on the good side of the building's new key opinion leader, he offered to have my entire apartment's waterproofing redone, free of charge. I accepted. It was a price they owed. Life finally returned to normal. Our water bill stabilized at around $50 a month, a perfectly reasonable number. Sarah looked at the new balance in our bank account, then at the latest water bill, and a genuine, relieved smile spread across her face. She leaned her head on my shoulder. "Ethan, what you did, it was amazing. You seem like a different person." I smiled and put my arm around her. "I'm the same person. I just learned that when you're dealing with bullies, the only language they understand is their own. A quiet man isn't a weak man. He's just a man who hasn't been pushed far enough. When you leave him no room to retreat, a quiet man's counterattack is the most devastating of all, because when he finally decides to fight, it means he's already prepared to risk everything." 12 a few months later, the shuttered restaurant space downstairs reopened. It was no longer a greasy, noisy Italian joint. The new business was a bright, cozy cafe with big, clean windows. The owners were a friendly middle-aged couple who always seemed to be smiling. On their opening day, they made a point of going door to door, introducing themselves to their new neighbors with a tray of fresh-baked muffins. "Just wanted to say hello," the wife said warmly. "We're happy to be here." The muffins were delicious, a simple taste of warmth and decency. Now, on weekends, Sarah and I will take our daughter downstairs for lunch. She loves their grilled cheese sandwiches and always eats until her little belly is round. We chat with the owners about the neighborhood, about our kids. The sunlight streams through the clean cafe windows, warm and pleasant. Everything is calm, peaceful. I look at the steam rising from my coffee cup, at the smiling faces of my wife and daughter, and I feel a sense of security I haven't felt in a long time. I finally understand. Dignity and peace are not things you gain by being passive or patient. They are things you have to fight for. You have to protect them with your wits, with your courage, and sometimes with unconventional methods. This quiet, happy life is a precious thing, and now I know I have what it takes to defend it.